Emily, so off camera, we were just chatting a little bit about you and kind of where you're at. And I know we've done a few of these episodes before, like we've done Emily check-ins. I don't think we've titled any of that, but we've kind of checked in to like see where you're at spiritually, emotionally in this whole journey of deconstruction. And an interesting question that came up as we were just chatting that we were like, well, this could be an interesting episode, is chatting a little bit about like where you're at, but also why you're at where you're at. Like, so you're in kind of the agnostic space, right? And so, and I'm trying to figure out how you word it so you can correct me from it. But where are you at, and why have you not like fully dove in deep into like, I'm just a hardcore atheist, I'm a hardcore agnostic, and like embrace that community? Because it seems in some ways like you have a foot in each camp. Yeah. So where are you? How are you where you're at? And we'll see other things come into this, but as just to start us off.
I like live my life like an agnostic. Like I usually don't talk to God. Sometimes I do. And then I'm like, maybe I don't even believe he's real. Yeah. It's just weird. But pretty much like that's how I'm I know I keep saying like functionally that way, but like I don't really pray. I don't read my Bible. Like I don't really engage with God all that much.
In the ways you used to.
Absolutely. Yeah. However, it would be very hard for me to just be like, I'm an agnostic. Like that, for some reason, part of it just feels like that's a huge step. Like I got a message from a really close friend when the podcast episode came out that's like, Emily isn't a Christian anymore. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, I've been supportive of your journey, but like that is like a step that I feel like I'm not supposed to support. And he's like, and I do support you, but, and it's interesting, like those label changes are big. Yeah.
I do feel like I came pretty hard with that episode title, and I wish I would have gone with a different, in hindsight, I think I could have gone a different direction.
But I think it was kind of clickbait. Like I know people who listened to it because they were like, oh shit, you know? But and you asked my permission.
I did ask your permission, yeah.
But yeah, I would say, I don't know, I don't love the idea. Well, regroup. Also, you're like diving into that community. I mean, I don't really see like, where would I go for the agnostic community?
Yeah, I'm more, I think that's right. As I asked that, I think I was more meaning like exiting one community.
Right, okay.
Or surrendering one just to be in not that community anymore, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just like, so I had coffee with a pastor the other week, it was pretty good. And one thing he said is he's like, he kept talking about the anchor. Like, what is your anchor that keeps you a Christian? And I was like, well, I don't have one right now. I was like, I don't know why you're asking me that. I feel like I just told you where I'm at.
Sure.
And I was like, but it's not really an anchor, but there is something that's like hanging on a thread that's like hanging on to, I'm not fully just completely removed myself from Christianity as a whole. Largely, I feel like I have. But the part that eats away at me isn't the right term, but that I think about a lot is this is going to get kind of heady for a second. But the idea, it's an idea from Plato, the philosopher.
Okay.
And he talks about how we have the image of like the perfect version of everything in our brains. So if I say like, picture a tree, you're probably picturing a perfect tree. You've never seen a perfect tree, but you can imagine that in your head. Okay. And I have always found that fascinating because I think it's true. And I just can't reconcile. Oh, I hate what I'm about to say because it sounds so like, I just can't reconcile this with it and there not be a God. You know, because like everyone says that and it's so annoying.
Sure. But say what you're going to say.
But it's like, I cannot reconcile the fact that we have the ideal or the perfect in our brain and we aren't made for that version of this world.
Yeah.
That is literally the only thing that like crucifixion, it's like, I don't know if I don't really have a relationship with God right now, but for some reason, like when I think about that and I think about the hope of renewal and restoration and how that's just an innate desire in all of us, I don't know. That's just like, I just don't think that came from nothing.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. And I think as far as threads to hold on to, that's a good one to hold on to in the sense
Kind
that
of a
like
surprising one, though. I'm
a
sorry I interrupted
surprising
you.
one, maybe, but not like from my seat, I don't find it surprising because like, and this is a little bit of an over generalization, but, or simplification maybe, but like, I think you're deconstructing dogma, right? And
Yeah.
you're deconstructing things that people have told you
Uh-huh.
and like theologies and whatnot. But like that's much more. It is maybe surprising now because it's like a much more of a heart thing. But like that's much more of a hope and an ideal thing, which I would not have
Right.
classified what your faith would have been.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a beauty in saying like what I'm clinging to is the hope for like I can't see, but what I imagine to be true about God and about God. Like I also hear you saying like God's desire for us, which is redemption and restoration,
Right.
and like all of those things. Like that's a different value statement about the kind of God you're trying to cling on to versus one I've heard you say.
Yes. But it goes back to what you and Dustin have said about the fact that you guys started with a relationship and the like warm, fuzzy feelings kind of.
Yeah.
And that's what you've held on to amid, and then like you added knowledge. And so for me, that was like one of the only warm, fuzzy feeling things that came from the knowledge. And so it does like, that's harder to get rid of in some way. But I also think it would be incorrect to say that I am clinging to that. It more feels like it's more just like it just kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try to be really honest.
Yeah.
It's not like this is what's keeping me a Christian because I don't really feel like that's a title I hold right now.
Yeah. It's like an idea that's clinging to you versus you clinging to it.
And I just feel like that is so like
So
cliche.
God.
It's so like cliche of like, I thought that I wanted to leave God, but this one thing just kept gnawing at me. Like, I just feel like everyone says that.
Yeah.
Not that that means it's not valid, but it's just like.
I get that.
I just want it feels like, you know, we talk about it like a divorce and like your ex. It just feels like your ex keeps texting you really nice things. And you're just like, just shut up.
Yeah. Oh, if only. So I try not to, like, as a United Methodist pastor, I try not to go like full metho nerd all the time.
Okay. But you're about to?
Just, yeah, because I think it's generally unhelpful.
Okay.
But I will say something that's interesting about like John Wesley, who's the founder of the Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had been a Christian for like a long time, he would say. And then he had like his strange warming of the heart where like his head knowledge like really wasn't the most important. He was like, oh, I finally encountered God after like decades of like being alive and being a pastor and all this. And I do think there's something, at least from my perspective, I know it's not like one size fits all for everyone. And I'm not even really putting this on your story at all, but saying like the way that I think God encounters us and engages us is, I think in the most profound ways is in the images that we hold in our heart, and rather than like all of the knowledge that we've consumed. And I think that's like an interesting thing this does connect you. As I think of you, it's like, I actually think you've cleared up space to encounter God in a way that maybe you wouldn't, because you've like let go some of the stuff that occupied the highest level of importance, which was knowledge and theologies and dogmas and doctrines and all these things. And now that's probably still fresh because that's still how your mind works and like you see those things. But I think if those are no longer what's guiding every decision of your life and you have this annoying lingering thread that's still there, like I do think it creates more opportunity for that to be profound in your life and maybe shape some of the ways you think and shape new thoughts, you know?
Yeah, because the thing is like my agnosticism, what like this thing, I don't really love it as a label, but it's like a thing that I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
Is very not rooted in my mind. Like it's not something that I like thought my way out of, like, or thought my way into.
Yeah.
Which in a lot of ways is like how I inherited Christianity, was through my brain.
Yeah.
And so this is like if someone asked me to like sit here and defend my belief, I would be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of wild, but it's also kind of freeing to just like be a person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like I don't like if we were going to sit down and you wanted to be like, there's no way there isn't a God, I would be like, yeah, you're whatever. Like I would just be like, okay.
You'd be super agnostic.
I'm not going
about
to Like, yeah, like I'm not going to fight you because I don't actually have that much confidence in my knowledge in this area.
Yeah, I think it's like, I would say where you're at is not a place based out of like high levels of certainty. It's more based out of like a desire to just be somewhere that feels maybe more restful than where you were. It's like the desire to like have all the information isn't what got you there. Like you said, you didn't think your way into it.
Yeah, and that's very different. And that feels very invalid because I'm like so used to being like, well, no, like, what do you like the apologetics? Like thinking about our third episode where it's like apologetics of how do you defend your faith? Like Peter says, you know, like always be ready to have a answer for like the hope that is within you. Yeah. And I just don't.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like this episode is weird because I'm like, this is kind of something that I'm clinging to, but also I'm pretty just kind of like over it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to maybe, I think that's truthful. I think one of the things that I want to project always is honesty over like putting on a mask to say something. Yeah. Right? I think that's an important part of what we're trying to kind of curate here. But I would ask a question that hopefully is not like too probing, but like, I'm not playing the long game with you, right? Like we've made that joke before. Like this isn't like Danny's path to save Emily, right?
Yeah.
But we have people that are in the journey of deconstruction that are, some are like, I want to, maybe they don't want to, but like they are very fine to deconstruct atheism or agnosticism. People that are maybe hoping this is their guidepost to get them back into faith.
Yeah.
And I think we are attempting to have an honest conversation just naturally where you are. And I think we've done that well, at least to the best of our abilities. And I wonder though, for your encouragement to like someone listening, like knowing where you sit personally is about you. Like what's your encouragement to that person, like that's sitting here and like, hey, I kind of want to like deconstruct back to like my faith or like deconstruct all the messy things.
Right.
Or maybe, and then also that's one side, but also to the person that's maybe sitting where you are, like what's your encouragement to that person? Or maybe the person is just like, screw it, I'm out of it. Like,
right.
But they're still engaging in this. Like, those are kind of three different buckets. Yeah. But I just wonder, like, how you would communicate to each one of those, just as the most honest version of Emily sitting here.
Great question. I think to the person who wants to get back into it, which I somewhat relate to, but also right now, honestly feels like kind of impossible. If I'm just being really blunt. Like, I would say feel the freedom to do that, but also take your time. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's this, like, we try to do this process so quickly and jump right back in, and it just isn't real life. Like, I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, we were talking about this idea that I feel like right now I'm in a desert, and I was like, and I don't want to rush being here. And he was just like, I spent 40 years in the desert. Whoa.
Very biblical.
I know. Didn't even think about that. And he was like, and now I've found a relationship with God that is like so beautiful and helpful to me. And he was like, but if I would have rushed it, I don't think I would be where I am.
Yeah.
And like 40 years felt like such, like when he said that, I was like, oh my God. But also I was like, if that is my story, then that is my story. And that is fine. Like, there's not an urgency because this isn't like if God comes back today, I'm going to hell. And if God comes back tomorrow and I'm back to Christianity, then I'm going to heaven. Like taking that away just takes the stress away.
Yeah. I think before you go on to the next one, I would just say like, that's like part of like one of the reasons I don't feel a huge pressure to be like I know certain people from your past life or just other pastors or like the guy we talked to that I talked about that was DMing me.
Yeah.
Like they feel a pressure because of impending doom or whatever. And it's like, and I think you can word it however you want to word it, like playing the long game or like trusting or whatever. Like, but it's like, if you believe, and even to your Calvinistic friends, that like you are in the hands of God and like God is sovereign or providing, like, and there's a providence that God has in your life. I think playing the like trusting God is what I think you have to do, right? So that's kind of where I sit. It's like, I want to say I trust God more than my intellectual abilities. And like, if God is real and God wants a relationship with you, it's like, I think that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. And I believe like if God is real, then he'll make it happen with me.
Yeah. But if he doesn't, that means he didn't want a relationship with you. So,
But like the pastor that I got coffee with the other day, he was like, by the way, I totally think you're saved. And I was just like, okay. I was like, it was so interesting because I haven't even thought about that
yeah.
category in so long. I was like, I'm glad that you feel that. Like, I bet that makes you feel better. You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's, this is speculating, but maybe it makes him feel better. Also, I think it's a way to like, and I don't know this person from anyone, so I don't know, but a way to build trust to be like, hey, just so you know, this is a safe place. And like, I don't think you're a heretic or burning in hell, right?
Oh, well, he said it at the end, like after I said everything right. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next one is someone who is just trying to like leave altogether.
Yeah.
Was that one of them?
Yep.
For them, I would say,
why the hell are you even listening to this podcast? No,
I don't know. I just want to say, I feel like all these answers are just going to be me like giving people permission. Not that anyone needs my permission, but this idea of just like, dude, if that's what you need, then that's what you need. And I know that it is very scary to have a whole new label on you because Christian was the biggest identity in my life for 23 years.
Sure.
Like that was it. It was the only, I was a woman. Yeah, I mean, I am a woman. I mean, like, wow, this podcast just took a turn. But no, like, yes, there are things about me, but that was my main identity. And it was even my hobbies. Like, my friend was like, do you have hobbies? I was like, just following the Lord, honestly. I just like to read about it and think about it and write about it, talk to people about it. It's like all I did. And so to have a completely new label feels like getting a new name. Like, it feels like if I was like, just start calling me Kathy.
Yeah.
That's my middle name's Catherine. So
Is
like,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Now everyone knows my full name. It's probably not good, but
you're more of an Emily. No, I think that's like, I hear you. Like, and I get it. Like, it might feel flat being like, take permission. But I think you're right.
know, yeah.
Like, I'm with you on the sense of it's probably an exhausting journey to like go there. But I think from my perspective, be like, if you're listening to this and that's where you are, I actually think I'm impressed that you're still digging into some level of community and conversation around this topic, even if you found yourself to a place where you think you'll never go anywhere other than there.
Well, like, yeah, I would say like of my friends, I'm pretty much the only like agnostic or like atheist. Like they joke like, oh my God, like the gang's all here, but now Emily's an atheist, like, which is kind of funny, but it's like, I don't feel like I still want to listen to them and engage in those conversations, and they still like care what I have to say. You know, like, it's not like, well, now this atheist, like, just go sit in the corner while we talk about spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you have people that are still inviting and engaging in the conversation.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And then the last one was what? So
essentially someone that's like in your seat, and like what we've used this prompt before, but like, what would you want to hear from a person sitting in your perspective, knowing that there's a lot behind you in the journey that you've walked along and likely a lot ahead of you? Like, what would you want to hear from someone that's just your counterpart that's sitting in the same space you're in?
This is what came to my mind, and I didn't really expect this, but like, I know we've been talking about surrounding yourself with community, and I definitely think that's important. But what I would want to hear is just like, this is your journey. And you don't need to like hold on to a label or completely reject a label for the sake of what people want you to do or what you perceive people want you to do. Like, it's your journey. Take ownership of it. And it is what it is. And like, you don't have to fully explain it. Like, I think that's huge.
Yeah. Kind of own where you're at and realize that like, though community is important, and I think we're designed to be in relationship with people, like understanding that even if you're in community with people, like, your story is still your story, right? Like, even though I'm married to my wife and we're the Liebargers, like, she's still Annie and I'm still Danny, right?
Well, and even like, this is going to sound like a weird example, but it makes me think of when like some people talk about like sexuality, and they're like everyone's trying to fit them in labels all the time, right? Like, you're gay, you're bi, you're like all these. And some like, there are people who are like, I just don't need that label to validate what I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
And that, Like that just, I don't know, that came to my mind as a similar of like, I don't have to, almost a little bit of just like resisting labels for the sake of just completely owning and accepting who you are and where you are.
Yeah, I know like a thing within the Life of the Well, like we're pretty outwardly inclusive of the LGBTQ community, but using that example to continue, like there are people in our church that are gay and lesbian, like this is the least like interesting part of who I am. Like I just want to be a Christian here. And I think that's an important thing to like figure out is like, hey, like what is the most important label for you? It was Christian at one point. And then for some people, they're told it's their sexuality, your faith, but it's like you're above all. Like if I was going to say, it's like all these other things are like added, but it's like our most important label is like that we're created in God's image, or we're like you're Emily, like someone that's like uniquely you, right? And the other things are like identifiers, but they're not identity. Like your identity is different than the identifiers of yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, and I think that is very anti. I feel like I'm gonna be like the culture, which is not what I'm trying to do, but like I feel like the culture is very obsessed with labels. Yeah, because we've talked about this from the very beginning. It says who's in and who's out of the group, right? And so to be in the space that I'm in, not feeling super in any group, like I feel too spiritual for the atheists, but not near spiritual or Christian enough for the Christians. And so it's just like, and you just want to pick one, like you almost just want to jump in one just so you have a label and have a identity. But it's like, what if it just goes down the rung of like my identity? That is huge and fine, and I have other identities. I'm like a teacher, I'm a comedian, like I'm a sister, I'm a friend. Like they go on and on and on, and that doesn't have to be my main thing.
Right. Well, I think this is always helpful for me, like as a friend of yours, just to hear like where you're at. And I hope for those listening, regardless of what bucket or maybe a bucket we didn't identify that they might be sitting in as they're listening, like I think I would speak for both of us, but I think you would agree with me. Like we enjoyed this part of it, but I think the community that's being cultivated is equally as important. And one we want to continue to invest in and trying to find other ways actually to engage and invest with our community as we move forward. Yeah. But I think sharing your story and helping people not feel alone, regardless of where they are, to feel heard, I think is an important part of this. And so I appreciate you I throw a lot of questions at you that you may not want to say on camera. So I appreciate you doing this with honesty and vulnerability.
I mean, it's definitely like a muscle that has just been worked by this podcast of just being like, we're just going to say it. Yeah. But
you've gotten better.
What is one episode I was like, I'm just feeling honest today. Yeah. And you're like, okay. But yeah, I mean, and I think honestly it was interesting because like we were talking about doing a check-in and I was like, I don't even have that much to say because it's so like doesn't feel in my brain. Like I'm like, I don't even know what to say, but I think we found things to say. Yeah, now I bet you 25 and a half minutes later, am I close? We had more to say than we thought. Absolutely. So. Do you have any other things that you want to say? No, I think just continue to realize, I think what you said was really profound about identity. Like, what are things that you do that identify you and are a part of you, but what is your actual identity, and starting to figure that out's important, and just being honest and like being a part of the journey, right? To embrace the journey means to actually embrace the journey and like engage in it. I've said that before. So I think just engaging in this to the highest level that you can, I think is important. And trusting yourself and surrounding yourself with trusting people is important. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for listening to this little bit of a check-in, and wherever you are, know that it's valid and it's important. It doesn't have to have a label, and you're doing great. So thanks for listening, and embrace the journey.